Hey again. So along the next step in getting this into something that I could play through a laptop would be to find a way to have the laptop there. Um, I don't like having like another stand. It's a perfectly good stand. It's very stable. Most of the time, if I'm playing computer stuff along with this stuff, it's like I'm doing, Ableton crap and I'm playing, and sometimes I'm switching between these two things. It's not like I'm only doing bass with like the computer ancillary, or only doing computer with the bass ancillary. They're tied. So I tried to come up with a way that they could be put together pretty simply, or in a way that was like stable, accessible, and didn't look like totally complete shit, I hope. What I did was I got a couple of pieces of aluminum tubing like this, and figured that the laptop could just sit in between these two pieces like in a V. And that could then attach to the base right here. And that would then enable me to basically have my laptop sitting right next to the base, and then we can talk about getting the bass through the laptop and the amplification, but that was kind of the last piece of making this like seriously work. So this is just two pieces of fairly high strength aluminum tubing jammed into another piece of wood, and a bolt through the top, which is going to go right through the bolt here. Piece of wood here, and then there's a couple of clips that I built by, again, bending a little piece of aluminum into a right angle, and then like stuffing some mouse pad underneath some like shrink wrap rubber, and drilling some holes that were the same size as the aluminum tube. So this is going to clip onto the screen part of my laptop, so that that heavy part can rest on the other bar, and so the whole rig isn't going to go anywhere. It's probably best if I just show you how that's going to work. So this is then going to tip up. My laptop's just going to be sitting right here, and then to keep this staying upright, I'm going to use like a piece of disconnectable wire rope with some nice anchors to attach this. So then I'll have 3 points of stability, one in the two tubes, and this will keep it from falling over. So I'm going to hook that up and put the laptop in here, and you can see what it looks like. All right, so this is the base hooked up, as it were. This is the laptop. I'm going to put on here. Hopefully this won't take forever, so it'll look really smooth and totally pro. Usually it's not too horrible. So I take the laptop, I slide it into this fire clamp, and then I have just enough space to get this other clamp up and around the front of it, and then I pull the laptop back onto that clamp, and now I've got, this is not really going anywhere because it's latched in on both sides. And then I've got the front here. And then what I do is I take this, piece of wire rope with the 2 anchor ends, and just open up my anchor end and hook it to here. And I'm good. So now what you've got is I've got a base, so I can sit here and play this, and I can do stuff here if I need to. So starting to get the bass into the computer. The first issue I had was that my bass doesn't have a volume knob, so I bought a volume pedal. And so my first step in doing anything is to come out of the bass into the volume pedal, and then out of the volume pedal into the next step. So I'll just hook this up. Even if your bass has a volume pedal, you might find it, or even has a volume knob, you might find it easier to just be able to click that off of the foot. So that may be worth it. So the next thing this is the most important thing. The Sonuus I to M adapter, which is nothing short of completely amazing. This little unassuming thing is capable of taking a stand-up bass and generating both MIDI and digital audio out of it, and with pretty limited latency like you can definitely play along with other things without like any like noticeable lag. It's really nothing short of fantastic, and I can recommend this one. So anyway, the one thing it doesn't come with is mounting, which is kind of silly. So what I ended up doing was I took a small piece of wood, glued some stuff onto it, put a couple of screws into the wood, and then put these mounting straps on it so that I could put this somewhere without it, you know, just hanging around. And since I never used the tilt on the tripod, that was like a convenient mounting point. So then this guy just kind of sits right here and clips on. Now the added advantage of having this accessible, or you know, reasonably accessible like this, is that the Sonuus has a little button on it that will allow you to switch between whether or not it's allowing slide, whether or not it's tracking like pitch bend, or whether or not it's tracking exact notes. And there are sometimes, if you're working with like squirrely synthesizers, it's really helpful to be able to only track specific notes. So I actually use that button occasionally, although most of the time I like having the slide because I like having the synth react, you know, like as if I was playing fretless, you know, stand up, which is what I'm doing. But it's handy to have it accessible like that. So, you know, probably, you know, find a place. I thought about mounting it on the wood here, got a little complicated, you know, whatever works for you. But it's nice to have it accessible, and it's nice to have it mounted so that it isn't like floating around, because you know I don't like having like things in line. So anyway, then the bass is now into the Sonuus, and we are now officially digital, because what's coming out of this is USB. The next things that it's helpful to have, you know, in addition to the expressiveness that you can get from just playing bass when you're controlling a synthesizer, it's also really helpful to have like an expression pedal. And what I did is like, that was the most important thing, but it was also, well, I'll just tell you what I did. You can look around at all the, you know, different options of what you want to use for control and so forth. I ended up going with the Logidy UMI3. It's programmable buttons. So you can click these and get them to send any MIDI note and that sort of thing. And so it's pretty useful. And it has a hookup for an expression pedal. So this is like pretty much most of the like gross level control and program control that like I do for what I'm doing. And it's enough for me. You can kind of go nuts on pedals. And I like prefer to do a bunch of setups so that like, you know, the pedal is always just like does something freaking cool. And I don't know what it's going to, you know, varies based on, you know, whatever set I'm doing, what the pedal is actually hooked to. But, you know, that's kind of, you know, that's kind of like I set all that up ahead of time so I just don't have to like do it live. And then the Logidy I also have, what do I have it set to? I usually have it so that the button 1 toggles me between like in Ableton between like, you know, scene 1 the first time I press it, and then it goes to scene 2 next time I press it, and then scene 5, and then I'll stop, and then it cycles. So what that allows me to do is I can switch between like an intro and an A section and a B section. I can stop, you know, when I need to. And I usually have the button 2 cycle through, like shutting some things off and bringing some other things on, just to add interest. So like, you know, while I'm, you know, dinking along, I can just like press, you know, hit button 2 and it'll like drop a couple instruments out, bring them back. You know, every time I hit it, it does, you know, it makes a change. Which adds interest, and you know, it enables me to not have to think about that while I'm playing. Button 3 I have dedicated for switching between synthesizer and bass. So like I'll typically have, they'll just arm one and disarm the other, or you know, vice versa. So it'll basically toggle between you know, whatever synthesizer I've chosen for the set that is like that I really want to be, that's my main solo instrument, and bass. And that, you know, that way I can switch between those two things. And I'll also choose other synthesizers and select tracks on, you know, manually while I'm playing. But I find that pretty helpful for, you know, a general assignment, so that I know like what instrument I'm on. So, and the expression pedal, I already talked about that. So that's that piece. And at this point, you know, it's pretty clear that I've exhausted, like I have 2 USB input ports on this, so it's kind of getting very close to time to have a USB hub. So I bought, you know, a nice USB hub. This is an Anker, which seems very good. It's very funny. I think it's called Anker because it's got a piece of metal in it, and so it feels heavy. But what I did is I unscrewed it, took that apart, got rid of the piece of metal, and instead mounted my usual thing with a piece of wood, a couple of straps, and screws, so that I can mount this to the tripod in a somewhat, you know, permanent way. So this guy is going to live here. And then the Sonuus goes into the USB port, like so. The Logidy goes into the USB port. And then the USB port goes into the computer, which I've got hooked up through an additional like right angle connector, because usually I'll connect this first because it's easier to get in all this mess and past all the tight stuff. But blam, live. So that's the rig. So the only other thing that is, I built a couple little like cable guide thingies that are kind of you know, the usual thing: little silicone strap, screw, piece of wood, so it ties around, and then like typical little cable guide. And this is just to keep all these USB cables and 1/4-inch cables and stuff just kind of tight to the rig, so that it doesn't end up being you know, too messy and nothing gets kicked or whatever else without actually trying to. So yeah, that's about it. I hope all that was at least vaguely helpful. If you have any questions, you can hit on what is it, Theriex, THERIEX.com, and there's contact info there if you have any questions, or I guess I will try and pay attention, and if they let me know if there's any comments, I will respond here. Have a good day.